Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 10th, 2024 meeting of the Brighton Town Board. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and I'm calling this meeting to order. Before we start the business meeting, I want to remember a great man. This past week, Brighton lost a great man, the Honorable Michael J. Miller. Actually, we all lost a great man this past week, because whether or not a person knew Michael or not, there has never been a person that I've known that has taken the term public service as seriously as Michael did. Michael Miller was elected to the Brighton Town Board in 1973, and he served for 16 years. Michael was the first Democrat ever to serve on the Brighton Town Board, and I say that not to make a partisan statement, but again, rather to emphasize Michael's commitment to public service, to local government, because Michael knew that local government, to succeed and to do your job for the people, is to work with the people, whether or not you agree with them all the time. And Michael, for most of his career, was the only Democrat on the town board. But he worked across the aisle to make Brighton a better place. And Michael worked with people who also shared a commitment to make Brighton a better place. Maybe they had different visions, but he worked with people like former town clerk Don Jeffries, to former town board members Gene Hutchins, Marion Brown, Bill Locus, Supervisor Dick Wiles. Supervisor Wiles' name is on our highway building. All of them found ways to work together, not always, but they found ways to work together to make Brighton a better place. After those 16 years, and Michael practiced law throughout, but Michael was elected to family court. Now, I can't imagine a better person to serve family court, to deal with the challenges that families face when they walk into the second floor in the Hall of Justice downtown. I can't think of a better person, and yet, for Michael, sometimes, as much as he loved to serve, it was the worst job imaginable, because Michael was very open and honest and candid about the toll that family court sometimes took on him. The fact that working through the legal system, he couldn't solve all of the problems that families sometimes brought into his courtroom, and that was very difficult for Michael. And yet, he found a way to share the toll that that took on him, the mental health impact that it took on him, in an honest and open way that, frankly, again, I mean, judges, you know, they're up there on the bench, and they're somehow greater. Not Michael. Michael admitted the challenges, admitted what it meant to him, and he took every family. He would see those names on the legal filings, and Michael always knew it wasn't just a name. Those were people. Those were families. And that sometimes hurt him, but it also was something that he did better than any other person I can imagine sitting on that bench. We lost a great man. I lost a friend, a mentor. We lost a mensch. And I would ask that you join me in a moment of silence for the Honorable Michael J. Miller. Thank you. We'll begin the open forum portion of our meeting shortly. Open forum is the portion of every town board meeting when members of the public have the opportunity to share their comments with the town board. In just a moment, I'll give some more direction on open forum. But if you're watching us on YouTube or on our cable access channel and you want to participate in the open forum, you'll have to log into Zoom to do so. There are detailed instructions for doing that on the town's webpage, www.townofbrighton.org. As we've done for many years, all of our town board meetings are accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community with our ASL interpreters, and tonight our regular interpreters are back. Allie and Heather, it's great to have you here. Thank you so much for all you do week in and week out. The agenda for tonight's meeting is in the table in the back of the room if you're here in person. They're also on the webpage, and you can review not only the agenda but the proposed resolutions and all the backup material that we'll be relying on in taking action tonight. I'll ask, if you're able, to please rise, and we'll start the meeting with a pledge to the flag. I'll ask Councilmember Werner to lead us, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll now begin the open forum. As I mentioned, we hold that at the beginning of every town board meeting. The open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning any matter relating to the town, whether or not it's an item on our agenda tonight. Although I will say that if you're here for the public hearing on the proposed local law concerning demonstration and special events permits, I would encourage you to wait until those public hearings have been opened and your comments can be included in the record of the hearing, and we will be doing that very, very shortly. If you'd like to speak during the open forum and you're here in the room, please raise your hand. When I call on you, please. Oh, that's great. Everybody's following directions tonight. That's wonderful. When I call on you, please come up to the podium to speak. If you're participating in the meeting remotely and you wish to speak during the open forum, again, as I mentioned, you'll have to join the meeting on Zoom. You'll be admitted to the Zoom meeting from the waiting room, and if you'd like to speak, use the Zoom raised hand function to do so. I ask all speakers during the open forum, in person or remote, to please state your name and address before speaking, and please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. I will give you a 30-second notice before your time expires. We may not be able to answer your questions, particularly if you have a question concerning a matter that's not on the agenda tonight, but our goal here tonight and during the open forum at every town board meeting is to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts with the town board and for us to be able to listen thoughtfully to your words. Therefore, please direct your remarks to the board and not to the room or to other speakers. Please refrain from personal attacks and from outbursts of any kind, including applause, boos, or any similar disruption during the open forum, out of respect for the speakers and for the time of everyone here tonight. Also, out of respect for others in the room who may not be able to see, we do not allow signs to be displayed during town board meetings, including during the open forum. Persons who do not follow these rules will be warned. Repeated failure to follow the rules or failure to follow other directions from the chair may result in your speaking privileges being ended, being directed to leave the meeting, or the early termination of the open forum. So with that, now, is there anyone that would like to address the town board And again, I'll mention, if you're here to speak to the public hearing, I would encourage you to wait and do so when the public hearing is called. Mr. Chechenoff?
I would recommend that people speak.
Mr. Chechenoff, would you please state your name and address?
No, thank you, Bill.
Okay.
If you want to kick me out of the meeting for not stating my name and address, you're welcome to do so, but you could feel free to put the town in extra legal liability for no legitimate reason. There's no legitimate reason.
I did say please, Mr. Chechenoff. Go ahead.
But there's no legitimate reason for you to demand this every time. Why would you keep insisting people surrender their Fourth Amendment right to be secure in their person, places, effects? Part of their personal information is theirs. You have no right to demand that of anybody. You have no rights at all. As a government employee, you traded in those rights for duties, responsibilities, authorities, and you walk around with a loaded diaper, and you use the Constitution as a loaded diaper all the time, and with no legitimate purpose. I don't understand why you keep doing that. Thank you for distracting me. So I recommend that everybody come up here, voice your opinion twice during the open forum and during the public hearing on this town ordinance. That's not a law, but a town ordinance. I know that the town is a political subdivision of New York State, and New York State is a political subdivision of Congress, of the United States. So the town has to follow the rules. If you don't like the rules, make an amendment, a constitutional amendment, and get that passed. This, since the 1803 SCOTUS case of Marbury v. Madison, where the SCOTUS, the Supreme Court decided, we decide how to interpret what's written on that, on these laws, versus kicking the case back to Congress or to the state legislature. For some reason, people have let SCOTUS get away with, oh, we the court have become the arbiters of whatever the law is. And Mr. Maley, you're the third most powerful person in the town. Second only to Vic Vilku, who's the town justice, so you can write whatever you want on whatever piece of paper, and then Vic decides, well, you know what, he said this, but I don't think that applies in this case. And the most powerful person is John Falk, the town judge that's been serving the most. He decides, no matter what you wrote, what the case is. So you do what you want. You will anyway. But I strongly encourage
30
people. 30
seconds.
As the third most powerful person, power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And you have fit this definition for decades. Nate Salzman, the town is not transparent. I have submitted multiple FOIL requests to the chief of police. Chief of police has refused to even respond to some of my requests. And I've asked for the last email of the day from the supervisor on multiple occasions, and there's no response. Those are town records. They should be published to the website immediately upon completion.
Is there anyone else that would like to address? Come on up.
Jonathan Siegel, 309 Hemingway Drive, 14620. This is a follow-up to an email I sent to all of you, I think, last week about Trump v. USA, in which I asked the town board to take a position through a resolution calling for a constitutional amendment to overturn that decision. I want to thank Bill for a Facebook post, I think it was, supporting it, and I note that Joseph Morelli has said he will introduce something in Congress. But I want to encourage you to proceed formally. I don't think I need to tell you why that was a bad decision. I do want to address a few things very quickly. One, it's a local issue. And it's a local issue in two ways. First, A presidency unbound by any legal constraints can reach anywhere. It can reach into this town. And it means anything we do in this town that reflects the town's point of view is vulnerable. Second, the logic, so to speak, of this decision applies to executives everywhere. And while I do not share the prior person's disdain, I guess, for our current executive, for lack of a better word, I do fear executive power wherever exercised. And what's good for a president is good for governors, it's good for town leaders, it's good for county executives. So this is a decision that is likely to affect us some way, someday, in that way. So I'd like you to take a resolution so that we take a stand in the great tradition of Rochester, a tradition that has faded in recent decades of being in the forefront of battles for liberty. We're very fond of Frederick Douglass and Susan B. Anthony, but we haven't been in the forefront, in my view, and granted, I've only lived here for 25 years, of these national arguments for a long time. This is a chance to do so. This final thing I will say is I hope you do it in a bipartisan way. This is one of the few communities where you might have a chance to find Republicans who will respect and recognize that this issue affects them and where we have a potential at the local level for dialogue. And the final thing I will say is, as I did with healthcare, as you may remember, Bill, when we had the efforts to protect the ACA 8 years ago, and Louise Slaughter asked me to speak at a rally, and I did. And Families USA asked me to speak at a congressional committee, and I did. And then she asked me to go down and hear Trump's first speech as a symbol of what was at stake, and I did. I don't want to do that again. I didn't enjoy it. But if you ask me to do something to support this, I will. Even though I'm not an activist, I'm an analytic type person. And even though I'm standing up here, I'm an introvert.
30
so this
seconds.
takes great psychological energy from me. If you lead, I will follow. And I will do everything I can to help you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? No one here in the room with their hands up, and I see no one on Zoom using the raised hand function. So, Chris?
Bill, if that's the case, I move that we approve the agenda.
Second?
Clerk, please call the roll. Peggy, please call the roll. It's good to have you here.
Yeah. Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado. Aye. Councilmember Salzman.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. We have one public hearing on tonight's agenda. The public hearing is a continuation of the public hearing that was commenced at our last town board meeting in June concerning a proposed local law entitled A Local Law to Amend Chapter 113 of the Code of the Town of Brighton with respect to demonstration and special event permits. That public hearing was called and opened 2 weeks ago. It was tabled in anticipation of being continued at tonight's meeting. Now, before I ask for a motion to take that matter off the table and continue the public hearing, I do want to remind everyone here in the audience, if you'd like to speak during the public hearing, if you're here in person, please raise your hand. When I call on you, please come to the podium to speak. If you're participating in the meeting remotely and you wish to speak during the public hearing, again, you must join the meeting on Zoom and use the raised hand function again. Because this is a public hearing and our stenographer will be keeping a record of the public hearing, you must state your name and address for the record of the public hearing. Please direct your remarks to the town board and not to the room or other speakers. Please refrain from personal attacks and from outbursts of any kind, including applause, boos, or any other similar disruption during the hearing out of respect for the speakers, and again, out of respect for the time of everybody here in the room tonight. As I mentioned before, we do not allow signs to be displayed during town board meetings, including public hearings. You've been very good. This room is always very good about following that guidance. But again, we will, if there are failures to do so, you'll be warned. Repeated failures may result in direction from the chair that your speaking privileges are being ended, or even that you're directed to leave the meeting. Just a little more information before we get that motion to take this matter off the table. I do want to let everyone know at yesterday's Public Safety Committee meeting, we had another robust discussion of this proposed local law. Attorney to the town, John Mancuso, is working to digest some of the comments that were heard and propose some changes to the local law reflecting some of those comments, as well as cases. His review of cases that were given to him, Councilmember Wilt gave him some cases to review, and he conducted some additional legal research. So as the attorney to the town is engaged in that, we will again hold this public hearing tonight, but I do not anticipate the board taking action tonight, nor do I plan on closing the public hearing. We'll table it again and continue the public hearing at our next meeting in 2 weeks. So as I mentioned, at our last meeting, the town board voted to table the public hearing until tonight. Christine, can I have a motion to remove the public hearing on this proposed local law, amending Chapter 113 of the Brighton Town Code from the table, and reopen the public hearing?
I move that we remove that proposed local law amending Chapter 113 of the Town Code from the table and open the public hearing.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. The motion having passed, I declare this public hearing on the proposed local law to be open. Is there anyone here that would like to address the board on the proposed local law? Come on up. Yes, come on up.
Hi, Julie Gelfand. I live on Kimbark Road. I'm also a member of the Brighton Democratic Committee. I guess to start with, it sounds like there may have been some changes since the last public hearing, from what you said, or there may be some coming. So if I make comments that are kind of anachronistic now, I apologize. But most of my comments are really not about the way that the what we heard was in the content last time. So I'm glad. I did make comments last time regarding how I felt it looked then and concerns I had, so I hope those were taken into consideration. I want to start with where I was going to actually end, and this is a quote. I'm going to read this quote. It says, "The words of Anne Frank, who would have turned 95 this week. How wonderful it is that nobody need wait a single moment before starting to improve the world." That's the quote. That was Anne. Continues, "As hard as the days continue to be, we will continue to improve the world, despite those who want to harm us, because we have no choice. This is who we are, and that's what we do. No amount of hate can deter us from this mission." I think it's a wonderful quote because it's so universal. And it did come from someone who's in this room, and I don't know if it's okay to name names, but this person is the CEO of the Jewish Federation. Let me go back to page 1 now, and okay, all politics is local. That's what they say, and we sure have been seeing this here. Common sense policies that strengthen our community and put our community first should always be our goal. Our concern should be with policies that help strengthen our community and unite us rather than divide us. It's time to tune out the politics and put the community first. So what divides us? I say the thing that divides us most, rather than specific things, is simply fear. Fear is what divides our community, and fear is a powerful, powerful tool. This week, the same person who I just quoted wrote a post on Facebook. I will quote it too. This was about the 4th of July parade in Fairport, where I was actually also there. This is what that person wrote. Terrorist sympathizers and anti-Semites on the march at Fairport's 4th of July parade. That they chose to desecrate the 4th of July is unfathomable. Note the utter lack of support for these hate-fueled people from the crowd on the parade route. Help us fight these uninformed, hateful people in our backyard. Actually, it was Fairport. So I will read another quote. This is from the president of the Jewish Federation. Jew-hating racists on the far progressive left. They are like a creek swelling against a mountain dam miles away from actual rain. The river swells, the dam eventually washes away, and everything in the resulting deadly tsunami path is utterly destroyed. These progressives chant slogans like Free Palestine from the river to the sea. So we kind of know where they're heading and what side they're on. Here we are. In the name of anti-Semitism and because of the global efforts to continue the supply of weaponry and money to Israel, the Jewish Federation, Anti-Defamation League, and AIPAC are using fear and condemnation. The demand that the town adopts a town code for gatherings and protests was initiated and spread by JFED in order to condemn and silence the voices of those supporting Palestine. As their campaign grew, the fight morphed from calling out anti-Semitism to fear for the safety of our children. The town needed to act. Fear and worry began to dominate the majority of the speeches we heard at Town Hall. This law, as it exists, will not do anything to protect our children. I'm referring to the one as I heard it last time, so perhaps there were changes. It will not do anything to protect our children and calm those fears. Ironically, as written, it can have little effect. Protests will not be stopped. In the city of Rochester, there are permit requirements, which are rarely acknowledged. Immediacy always wins over regulation. Quotas regarding the number of participants are unenforceable. Carrying permits will not be required. Mass killers will still show up if they want to. Your children will be no safer than they are sitting in this room tonight. But what will that law do, the ordinance do? For all of you people who are voting on it, and I don't know, I'm hoping your ears are still open, your minds are still open, so I don't know where you're heading. However, keep in mind that to vote yes at this point is mostly going to assuage the people who are demanding that something be done. It's not necessarily going to be helping them very much. But this law will give the two heads of the Jewish Federation the aura of power. They like that they're scaring you because they can manipulate you. They like that they may be convincing you that Palestinian supporters are evil-minded, including the Jews like me, who they call a Jew hater. They've called me a Jew hater. This is not about your safety. I was at the Fairport Parade. You can find my video on YouTube, Julie Gelfand, look it up, my channel. Look at the kids standing next to the protesters. All they cared about was the candy being thrown from the marchers and floats. They shouted and fell to the ground as handfuls of treats came their way, and then filled their pockets and mouths with sugar. No frightened, damaged children. Truth, information, and compassion. Let's fill this room with that. That's it.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during this public hearing on the proposed local law? Mr. Tetanoff?
Bill, is there any penalty for not disclosing my name and my address at this public forum?
I will ask you to state your name and your address for the record of this public hearing.
So there's no penalty?
I will ask you to do that.
Okay, so I decline. And I don't have a disdain for you personally. I don't know you personally, but your behavior is abhorrent. You could be a fantastic person outside of your official government duties. I don't know. That doesn't affect me. What affects me is your abhorrent and horrible behavior dictating the speech that we are allowed to engage in and not allowed to engage in. And to me, it sickens me that you're willing to throw a person into a cage over what they say or how many people come together to say that you are willing to say, oh, hey, you, put that person into a cage because I don't like what they wrote on their sign or what they said. To me, that's the mentality of a sick individual. And I'm an immigrant. My grandfather supposedly escaped the Gulag in the 60s. And wearing a woman's dress. In Siberia, you don't escape a gulag. He's probably buried behind a gulag. My father spent 3 years in a labor camp. So these behaviors that you exhibit, my family has seen for decades. You, Tavares, you are going down the same road, and I find it important to share my views of the path that you are leading us down, and I completely disagree with that. With specifics to this particular town ordinance, it's not a law. A law is something that doesn't change on the whim of a politician. A law is like Newton's first law of physics. A body of motion will stay in motion until otherwise acted upon, regardless of what politician says, oh, today, this is what a law is, and tomorrow a law will be something different. That's not a law. This is a town ordinance or code. With specific concern to this town ordinance, what happens if a cop decides, oh, this is a violation? Do I decide, oh, there's 7 people, that's a violation? Let me go get my supervisor to confirm and say, oh, yep, I'm gonna lock you up. And is it gonna be like they threw down Charles Campany, police officer Zachary Hogue grabbed Charles Campany skateboarding down Elmwood Avenue in 2017, grabbed him and threw him on the ground like an animal. Is that what we expect from the direction that you're going to give to the police department? It's just barbaric over words. If you are that sensitive over words, resign, move on, do something else far more productive with your time. Have you run this potential new ordinance by John Falk and Vic Vilku? Have you gotten their opinion as to what are they going to rule on this? Are they going to throw this out and decide, hey, this has no merit whatsoever? Have you guys run this by those guys that will decide what happens in any case? No answer. When you said, oh, we might be able to answer questions if it's on the agenda, another falsehood. You're not going to answer anything that's at all politically sensitive because you don't have to. And you've reminded us repeatedly, you don't even have to give us a forum to address you during these town board meetings. You've said that time and again. New York State town law doesn't even require you guys to do it. So you're not going to. And has this police chief, Mr. Cathaldi, weighed in on how enforceable is this town ordinance? Has he given his opinion? Well, this section, we might not be able to enforce the way you want, but if you word it a little bit differently, we believe that any arrest we made would be a legitimate arrest. So those are my questions for you to hopefully consider. I urge you to stop this madness and stop this road into putting people in cages over words. To me, that's just a mental disorder. And it should be in the DSM-6 when it comes out.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during this public hearing? And there is nobody. Yes.
Good evening, everybody. Mr. Supervisor, Honorable Council, my name is Paul Sanders. I live on Fairmeadow Drive in Brighton. I'll just make a few brief comments. First of all, I want to thank you for listening to everybody's comments today, at the last meeting, and even before that, and considering seriously what people have said, and making changes apparently to the law in order to ensure that it complies with applicable case law. Thank you, Ms. Wilt. Or any concerns people have. That's the way the democratic process works. Everybody, the 5 members of the council are duly elected officials, and they are proceeding to develop this law and issue this law in accordance with federal and state law. And it may feel a little bit messy. I know some people are upset that it's taking as long as it is. Other people are upset that you're doing anything at all because they're personally offended by the whole idea of it. But nobody's in a municipality has ever agreed on everything. So this is the way it works, and I think we should be grateful that the process is working. And I think some of the comments that were made tonight really illustrate why we actually do need, this law more than ever, now more than ever. The country is becoming more and more polarized, and like one of the speakers said, all politics is local, and it's no different here in Brighton. And people are very, very passionate about things, and people see things in very, very different ways. And we heard someone say, that this isn't going to protect the children. They're still going to be subjected to whatever violence there may be. Well, I don't know if that person has children who go to 12 Corners Middle School, but I do. And I know that if this law was in effect, there may have been a different outcome than what we saw in February. There may not have been violence. There may not have been arrests. There may not have been significant injuries. There may not have been criminal prosecutions. There may not have been a whole bunch of people on both sides of an issue upset. And the issue really doesn't matter, okay? It could be any issue, but people are passionate, and we heard people saying things, that, in my view, border on conspiracy theory. We have people personally thinking it's okay to get up here and just personally smear the leadership of the Jewish community, attack them personally, and throw out conspiracy theories about AIPAC and Jewish money and things of that nature. Accuse the board of putting people in cages for saying the wrong thing. I mean, stuff is really, really unrealistic. It has nothing to do with this law. It has nothing to do with the situation. It exhibits a complete misapprehension of the situation. And that just, because of this diametrically differing viewpoints on things, that creates danger. I mean, we've had a crazy last, we had a crazy year, nationally and locally. We've seen a lot of violence on campuses. We've seen violence in big cities. We've seen violence here. And like I've said in prior remarks, it's just going to get worse. I don't think there's any question about that. And again, with the Fairport parade, somebody thought it was all beautiful, you know, candy and roses and unicorns. Well, I heard from a lot of people, not people who have any dog in the fight, Israel-Palestine, just regular people who didn't understand what was happening and were very upset about the disruption that it caused. And I understand our congressman had to exit the parade, and I think it made national news. It was very embarrassing for the town. It was disruptive to the people who viewed it. And we have some people looking at that and being like, oh, that was really wonderful. You know, it wasn't wonderful. We had a speaker at the last meeting describe in intricate detail the severed body parts of children that she thought was a good idea to display to 6th graders and 7th graders and 8th graders as they exited the school during dismissal. You know, these times are very fraught. On the other hand, this law that will change, but the basic concept of it is extremely reasonable. It is very reasonable, very basic. It's ubiquitous throughout the country. It's constitutional, unquestionably. And again, you know, there are some issues that need to be addressed, and the board will address them. Issues with timing, issues with threshold amount of people, issues with time, place, and manner. All of those things have precedent all over the country, all over this county, in fact, and especially all over this state. And so I think we really need to withhold judgment at this point and see what the revised version of the permitting law looks like. But you know, at its core, it is a perfectly elegant solution to provide some, albeit minimal, protection to people and children in schools, while at the same time having a negligible effect on expressive activity. Negligible. So those are my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board in this public hearing again tonight? Yes, Ms. Gelfand. I see another hand in the back. If there's anybody that hasn't spoken yet, would you like to speak? You.
Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
I will get taller one day. I just don't know when. I've been coming here and I've been speaking.
If you would.
Oh, I'm
state
sorry.
Your name and address, please.
My name is Nelia, and I have lived here in Brighton for most of my life, and I have children in the Brighton School District. And I wanted to share with you that I have been coming here every time that we need to talk about safety on the roads. I'm wearing my Stop DWI jacket because I do volunteer at the Victim Impact Panel for Monroe County Stop DWI. 12 Corners, as we know, is very unique. It's extremely busy. It's a commercial area with 12 different corners, 3 traffic lights, 3 active schools adjacent with cars, trucks, bike riders, scooters, everybody. I personally have seen several car crashes in 12 Corners. At the beginning of the day, the end of the day, it's very common. I know you all have heard this multiple times, so I don't want to keep repeating it because you already know. What you also know is that some of the drivers are high school students who are inexperienced drivers who are 16 to 19 years old, who've just learned how to drive. They are inexperienced. They get distracted easily, no matter how many times a parent tells them they still don't necessarily pay attention. This includes 20-year-olds. This also includes 30, 40, and up. A crowd of people with signs on a triangle is distracting for drivers. It is not to say that protests should never be allowed, but it is dangerous when all these factors come together at a certain period of time. I don't have to tell you that. All of you know that. Because there's actually this thing called the 2-second rule. And if you actually look through your workbooks, if you chose to go back and look at when you got your road testing, you would see that there's a 2-second rule for distracted drivers, which can mean life or death. 2 seconds. There's 1, there's 2 that I've looked at you, Mr. Maley. There's 1, there's 2, there's 1, there's 2, completely distracting somebody. 2 seconds goes very quickly. Those 2 seconds can mean life or death. And when I say that, it's not because I'm just making something up, but it is an issue. And the the National Highway Institute has mentioned it many times on how the safety needs to be there. Even 2 seconds to look at your phone, look at the dashboard, any of that can impact and impair the driving and the safety of yourself and anyone else on the roads. One man was driving on the expressway. There was a strip there to make sure that people didn't go over in the wrong spot, and he looked for 4 seconds at his wife. And it ended up that the tire got caught, and it ended up going across 4 lanes of traffic because he wasn't paying attention. There are other stories that I can tell you that I know of that people were hit by who were not intoxicated, but they were looking at their radio and they're changing the station and they're doing other things, and they were purposely doing what they thought was okay to look, but it distracted them from what they needed to do, which was keep their eyes on the road, their hands on the wheel, and to pay attention. I'm not saying this for any other reason but the safety of the children and everybody else in our community, because I don't know about you, but I've had people killed in my life on the roads because of distracted and impaired driving. I'm asking on behalf of RAID, Rochester Against Impaired Driving, and as a member, a speaker of the Monroe County Stop DWI Victim Impact Panel, to please consider this seriously. There's a time and a place for things. I don't care what anybody has to say. It's irrelevant to me. But putting children at risk at the time that they're going to school or on the way home is not okay. That's why they have laws for 9 p.m. for new drivers that are 16, 17 years old. They're not supposed to be driving past 9 p.m. for a reason, because of their limited ability to be able to focus and to be better protected on the roads. If you go to corner of French Road and Edgewood Avenue at French Road, there are signs there that say between 7 to 9 a.m. and 2 to 4 p.m., there are no turn right hands on red. And then it says, except school days. I mean, only on school days. It says only on school days. And they purposely do that because they don't want people doing that on school days. So when it's an off day like now, right, the next 2 months, there's no school in session, go ahead and make your right on red at any time of day. There's no restriction. That's all we're asking for from Rochester Against Impaired Driving, from RAID, to keep the roads safe for these kids. That's all. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anyone that has not already spoken that would like to speak? Yes, please.
I'm from Brighton, and I did have children at 12 Corners Middle School. They've graduated and gone on to different things. I am opposed to this ruling, mandate, whatever it's called, on the grounds that there is enough curtailment of freedom going on in the government, trickling down from the Supreme Court for all sorts of areas. And to give away even a little bit of freedom, ability to meet freely, is unacceptable.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has not already spoken? Ms. Gelfand, do you want to speak again?
Previous speaker seemed to be wanting to...
If you would again, just state your name and address.
Julie Gelfand,
Thank you.
Kimbark Road. Previous speaker seemed to want to rebut some of the things I said, so I am here to rebut what he said. He claimed that there were mistruths. I have to tell you that that's not true. That, number one, when I spoke of people who are associated with the Jewish Federation, I quoted them. These were not taken out of context, they were quotes. So I am not misquoting, I am not mistruthing, those are quotes. Two, I was at the Fairport parade. I can tell you what went on. I was involved. I was part of the people who were protesting, but my role was to be the videographer who videoed everything that was going on. So if you would like to see it, I can tell you. I can show you. It's not hearsay. This person spoke before me, said someone had told him that someone had said. I was there. I can tell you that it's not that this was a protest. And at protests, people speak up. At protests, there are things that are done in order to be heard. In this case, what was done, first of all, Morelli accidentally invited this group of people to be part of the parade. That was kind of nice, and they chose to go. And they went and they got T-shirts, and they joined him. And while they were marching with him, they called out in Morelli's ear, cease fire. And at the same time, Morelli was saying, Happy 4th of July to everybody he passed. These are all in video, so you can see it. There's nothing ugly. There's no confrontations. There were no confrontations on either side. Therefore, take a listen. Just listen to the truth. And I would like to rebut what someone said before because it was not true. The truth is very important. The truth is important to all of you, and I hope that you're listening. I hope that you're hearing what everybody is saying. And if lies are said about me again, I will be up one more time.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board during this public hearing? Seeing no one here in the room and seeing no one on Zoom, Christine, can I, as mentioned earlier, we will hold this public hearing open again till the next meeting. Can I have a motion to table the public hearing until June 24th at 7 p.m.?
I move that we table this public hearing until July 24th at 7 p.m.
I may have said June 24th, didn't I?
Second.
Thank you. Does that work for you?
Yes, Supervisor.
Thank you. We have a motion seconded discussion, although I don't believe a motion to table is, but I may be wrong. So
Point of
go ahead.
information.
Yeah.
I was wondering, so usually we have the public portion and then council members have discussion. So if we close the public hearing on the 24th, then council members would have discussion.
Oh, absolutely.
And I know that I will not be here on the 24th, and so if I want to contribute comments.
Honestly, because we will be looking, I expect, at some changes between now and then. I don't have a problem. Let me suggest that we continue the public hearing, but not take a vote.
Right.
I think we can close the public hearing and then take the vote at the first meeting in August, if that
works for me. That
Good.
works for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
So we have a motion made by Councilmember Corrado, seconded by Councilmember Werner, to table the public hearing until our next meeting on July 24th. Please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman,
Aye.
and Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Communications. We have 3 items of communication tonight from Miguel Velasquez, CEO of the Rochester Genesee Regional Transportation Authority. It's no wonder they call it RGRTA. With a copy of their comprehensive strategic plan and their annual report for, I do realize we did get one more item of communication. Maybe what I'll do, I'll just make sure it's included in part of the record of the hearing when we reopen it off the table.
Yes, I think that makes sense, Supervisor.
In any event, RGRTA's 24-25 Comprehensive Strategic Plan and Financial Plan has been provided. We also have from Anne Marie Braid, from New York State Agriculture and Markets Department, a satisfactory municipal dog shelter report to the town of Brighton, and also from Dr. Luke Scannell from the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, an audit report on an audit of, here's another long one, the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System, which is colloquially to everyone known as the MS4. They came in and Jim, your team, Ken Hurley in particular, did a great job preparing for that audit. The MS4 program is pursuant to the State Pollution Environmental Discharge Elimination Systems Permit Program, the SPEEDIES program, which is designed to reduce the impact of pollutants in stormwater runoff. We passed the audit. They did identify some areas that we should look at. And I hope one of the things we will mention, because when I read their report, I don't think we stressed enough. It's something we've been doing for years, and it certainly helps address stormwater discharge, and that is the fact that the town of Brighton does not and has not for many years now used pesticides or herbicides on town properties other than in cases of public safety danger. And that obviously impacts in a positive way the discharge into the system. So those are the communications we have. Can I have a motion to receive and file those?
I move that we receive and file the communications.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Councilmember Warner,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt,
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado,
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman,
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey.
Aye. Next, we have committee reports. Community Services. Robin.
Thank you, Bill. The Community Services Committee has not met in the intervening timeframe since our last town board meeting. I do have a few quick updates from our parks and department heads, however. From our Parks Department, the biggest update is that our park staff once again coordinated programming for yet another extremely successful July 4th celebration at Meridian Center Park. Our park superintendent, Matt Beeman, thought it was a fun-filled event, as I'm sure did the throngs of people who were in attendance this year.
God bless Matt Beeman that he can call as long a day as he spends on July 4th and the days before a fun-filled event.
Exactly.
But he did a great job.
Exactly, he did. And so far, the staff has not received any negative feedback. In particular, all of the vendors were extremely happy, and I witnessed the lines for the yummy food that were there all night long. Many thanks to our sponsors at all levels, volunteers, staff, first responders, vendors, and community members who helped make this such a wonderful celebration. Some other significant notes from the Parks Department. Park staff is working on some trail maintenance projects on the Lehigh Valley Trail. Staff will also begin installing the new wood border at the town park playground. Once completed, we can then install about 500 yards of playground wood mulch, and the playground can officially open, shooting for a ribbon cutting on the week of July 22nd. The Parks Department continues to manage field use requests in the park, as many camps and seasonal clinics utilize park field space this time of year. And the department is also making budget preparations for its 2025 operating budget requests. From our Recreation Department, we have lots of fun summer programming to highlight. We're pleased to announce that the Bands of Buckland Summer Concert Series kicked off last night with a performance by the Brighton Symphony. We urge members of the community to bring a blanket or a lawn chair, some dinner, and come enjoy performances on Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m. in the Pavilion at Buckland Park, 1341 Westfall Road. Performances include music that will get you up and moving. Concerts are free to the public. Accessible parking, restrooms, and concessions are available at the site. Join us every Tuesday for 6 great weeks. Contact the Recreation Department at 585-784-5260 with any questions you may have, and a full schedule of performances can be found online at www.townofbrighton.org/388/bands-at-Buckland-concert-series.
Can we come up with an acronym for that?
I think we need one. This month, the Recreation Department is also hosting Family Fun Fridays programming. So you can join the Brighton Recreation Department for Friday nights in July and get ready for unforgettable evenings of laughter, games, and quality time with your loved ones. Our upcoming Family Fun nights promise to be events the whole family will cherish. We do ask that you register all participants in your family. Adults are encouraged to participate with their youth, but do not have to. But we do require that all youth are accompanied by an adult. Just for a sampling of what's being offered, on July 12th, the program will entail an evening of family kickball, and on July 19th, we will have family escape room adventures. Then the fun continues in July with a community bike ride. Also on Friday, July 12th, Brighton Recreation invites the community to join us and our friends from Reconnect Rochester for a bike around town. This ride is targeted for intermediate skill level, ages 11 plus suggested, and helmets and registration is required. So please join us and get to know Brighton by bike. Then, on Thursday, August 22nd, Brighton Recreation is pleased to host the return of Mighty Motors. Calling on all construction vehicle lovers, join us at the Brighton Recreation Department teams up with the Brighton Highway Department to come and meet the machines that help keep our community clean, safe, and beautiful. With parent participation, youth will have the opportunity to explore all different types of vehicles, including a plow, garbage truck, excavator, loader, street sweeper, and more. The full program will take place between 5 and 7 p.m. Refreshments will be made available for purchase during this time, but there will also be a sensory-friendly program offered between 4 and 4:45 p.m. that day. Space is limited, and there's no formal presentation. We just invite you to don proper footwear, bring ear protection if you need it, and come rain or shine to interact with our wonderful Highway Department staff, who will help explain the function of each piece of equipment. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee meeting is next Wednesday, July 17th at 9:30 a.m. or immediately following the Finance and Administrative Services Committee meeting at the Brighton Recreation Center multipurpose room. Please access the Recreation Department through the Winton Road entrance. As always, members of the public are invited and encouraged to attend.
Thank you, Robin. Nate, Finance.
Jim, will they let me drive the truck, or am I too old? I'll keep asking. Hard no. The Finance and Administrative Services Committee last met on July 3rd. One of the items that we discussed was the Citizen Review Panel, which is in the process of making recommendations for our larger capital improvement projects. I know the Director of Finance, Earl, is compiling those recommendations, and we'll be sending them to the town board very soon. And we will then deliberate and bring to you, the public. Our next meeting is on July 17th at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you, Nate. Public safety, Chris.
Bill, we had our Public Safety Committee meeting for July yesterday, and we had reports from the various agencies. Brighton Ambulance reported a 4% decrease on year-to-date calls, a total of 4,243 year-to-date, and 633 calls for June, which actually was down 10% for June, I believe, over last year. Brighton Fire has 1,342 calls year-to-date, and they did respond to a working fire on Elmwood Terrace, and they gave thanks to the police department and the ambulance corps for assisting in that and helping to evacuate residents. They also noted the effectiveness of firewalls that it restricted the fire to the 3 units within those boundaries of the firewalls. So they do work. They had a recruitment fire education tent at the 4th of July event and a crew for standby for the fireworks. And they had 4 recruits complete the FF1 course through Monroe County. Brighton Police reported that the 4th of July event went very smoothly with no calls of significance, and they cleared the parking lot in 20 to 25 minutes. And there were a lot of people there, and the parking lot was entirely full. Henrietta Fire District responded to 418 calls in West Brighton, including a working fire on Park Circle, which they attribute to a battery charger being incompatible with a battery. It's always a problem. The rechargeable batteries on scooters and e-bikes and tools for that matter can have problems and can cause fires, and they should be of concern, particularly when these aftermarket chargers are used. They may be inexpensive, but they can be dangerous. We have deferred our continuing discussion regarding crosswalks on Highland Avenue and Penfield Road, awaiting final adoption of the town's crosswalk policy, which is in final stages. We also had an extended discussion regarding Chapter 113 of the Town Code regarding demonstrations and special events, which we've already discussed this evening. Our next meeting will be August 13th at 0800 hours.
Thank you, Chris. Public Works, Christine.
Public Works also met yesterday morning. It was exceptionally well attended, lots of good community engagement. I will share the highlights rather than reading the entirety of the minutes, which will be available online shortly if you want all the detail. Much thanks to Commissioner Sprague for capturing everything so comprehensively. Thank you. A resident from Chelmsford Road addressed the committee regarding traffic on Chelmsford Road and Chelmsford Lane, noting that with the culvert repair, there is an opportunity for reconfiguration of traffic flow, and we will do another speed survey in the neighborhood to see what is most feasible when the time comes when the culvert is repaired. We heard from residents in the Park Lane, Drury Lane, and Alamo Drive neighborhood regarding recent chip sealing. They have concerns about the results of the work. They have done some extensive research. Town staff have also been doing extensive research on new, different, or revised ways to handle extension of life of our roadways. We will continue to explore that in staff work and in committee, and we'll see how we proceed with future surface work. The Monroe County Grant Program for new sidewalks. We are just about ready to submit an application to the county DOT for a 50-50 funding program. The segments that we are seeking to fill in the town are on the north side of Elmwood Avenue, roughly between 12 Corners and 590. Westfall Road, roughly between Roosevelt Road and Edgewood Avenue. Edgewood Avenue from Stony Brook to Monroe Avenue, and Allen's Creek from Monroe Avenue to Schoolhouse Lane. And that application should be going in shortly if it hasn't already, and we are confident that we will receive support for continuing to fill the gaps in our sidewalk network. Resident from Glen Road appeared on behalf of neighbors. Neighbors have been investigating opportunities for calming traffic further in that very distinctive neighborhood adjacent to the park. Commissioner Sprague has spent considerable time with the residents and has come up with some potential solutions that we will try to implement before the end of the season. And more detail on that will be in the minutes. Town crosswalk policy is so very close to done. We're almost ready to cross the road with it, so to speak. The policy will give residents greater perspective on the process for requesting a crosswalk, understanding what the requirements are to make it viable, and how to work with the town to get those crosswalks implemented as they're identified. Doesn't mean that they are all guaranteed, just means we have a very clear process and standards. We had a brief update on the town hall renovation project, which I should note includes air conditioning. So we know how much it's going to cost for the project. Site portions of the project
You have
are
an estimate.
An estimate, yes. A very detailed estimate. Let me try that again. Site portions of the project are being developed, and we are close to having a lease for temporary office space when everyone has to vacate this building for the work to commence later this year. Any answer yet?
No.
No. Close. Closer than the
Close. Very,
crosswalk
very close.
policy? Yes. Let's see, county highway project updates. Folks may have noticed that Brighton Henrietta Town Line Road is under construction right now. The preventive maintenance project is underway, and traffic is still moving smoothly, and the project should be done shortly. It will result in a road diet and new bike lanes, as well as a new surface. The Multiversity Trail, the Clean Energy Communities Program, the town, very good news, the town is qualified for the $100,000 award, and the contract for that award is in hand for review, and it will be used to continue the work on clean energy projects in town. Multiversity Trail Project, the consultants are still working on gathering information. I hope folks stopped at the information booth at the market, not this past weekend, but the weekend prior, collecting public input. They'll next be engaging the colleges involved in this network. That would be RIT, MCC, and U of R, and more information sessions will be forthcoming. Climate Smart Community recertification is underway. There are some administrative issues in getting it assembled and completed, but staff are working on
Yeah, and I had a good
that.
conversation with Brendan this morning, and again, it looks like there we are very much, moving in the right direction.
Excellent.
A couple of, again, pretty technical questions that were asked, I think Brendan's been able to answer.
Good. And to be clear, it is not town staff struggling, it is the
It's-
program itself is
correct.
very exacting.
BEC.
Yes. And last, the Bike Boulevard, we're poised to have one more Bike Boulevard designated in Brighton that will get bicyclists from Highland Avenue at Oakdale all the way through quiet, not very busy streets and end up at the Winter Market. So that should be signed before the end of the season.
I would think so.
Excellent. That is the briefest summary I could possibly give you on everything that happened this month. We meet next month on on August 13th, 14th. August 13th at 9 o'clock or after public safety, whichever comes first.
Terrific. Thank you. Committee reports are done. We'll go to new business. Nate, reading approval of claims.
Bill, earlier today, I reviewed claims totaling $440,582.89. One notable claim included a payment for Pro Construction, the first payment for the 2024 sidewalk repair program. And anyone who's walking a baby on the sidewalk right now with their stroller knows that you hit those bumps. This is going to help improve that. Anyway, I thought that was funny. There was a payment of $100,850. That's the largest payment here. To the Depository Trust Company for the payment of serial bonds from 2019 for the Highland Trail crossing and highway trucks and the Havens Road project. Bill, the claims appear to all be in order, and I move for them to be approved.
Second?
Any discussion? Hearing none. Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. The next matter is really a two-pronged matter, both relating to property located at 185 Kimbark Road. One, to initiate, well, I guess it's to approve the initiation of a process, of the demolition process based on a finding that the property is in fact dangerous, and to set a public hearing. All is required under Chapter 51 of the Town Code. Christine, can I have a motion on that?
All right, then I move that we set a public hearing. I'm sorry, that we was misreading which one I had here. I move that we approve the initiation of the demolition process per Town Code Chapter 51 of 185 Kimbark Road and set a public hearing on said matter.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? You have in your packet communication not only from Commissioner Sprague, but you also have a report with photos of a site visit made by our building inspector, Ed Shiro. Based on that site visit, he has reached the conclusion that the property is unsafe to the general public. It's open, it's unsecured, and therefore it is his recommendation that the house and the garage are unsafe and should be demolished. And it is that report that is relied upon in making the definition that the building is dangerous and unsafe, and that a public hearing process be held. And I think it's important. This is a process that will afford the owner several opportunities and quite a bit of time because the consideration of demolition of a property is a very serious thing. It's only done on very rare occasions. But it happens when a property is found by our professionals to be unsafe, and that's what has happened here. But there'll be a public hearing. Representatives of the owner will be able to come in. We will have to get pricing. Once we get past the public hearing process, we will have to get pricing on the demolition. And I'll just say, it's, we always hope that the owner of a property in condition like this will step back into the picture and make the improvements needed that their neighbors on Kimbark Road will have a safe house there on the street. So, but we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none. Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Next matter is, I think, very exciting. It is to set a public hearing on the incentive zoning and rezoning application being made by Home Leasing and Providence Housing for what is, I think, still called the Westgate Apartments Project. That may change. And to approve the seeker negative declaration. Chris?
Bill, I move that we set a public hearing for the incentive zoning and rezoning application of home leasing and Providence Housing for the now called Westgate Apartments project and approve the seeker negative declaration in accordance with the resolution before us.
Second.
Supervisor, if I may just make one brief comment. The proposed resolution covers a couple of topics. The seeker negative declaration is not set forth in the resolution. The reason being that seeker was completed previously by the City of Rochester as part of a prior coordinated review of this project. The town of Brighton was an involved agency. So the city already completed seeker with respect to this project, so we are relying on their prior determination to carry this project forward. With that exception, we are otherwise following our other processes as we normally would with respect to an incentive zoning rezoning project. So all the other items with respect to the referral to the county planning department, the setting of the public hearing under chapter 209 of the town code, and then the dissemination of notices will be complied with.
Thank you for mentioning that. You're right, the seeker is not part of this because that was separately.
I amend my motion accordingly.
Further, this is an exciting affordable housing project. It's a project that has been discussed in connection with development of the adjoining parcel for a number of years, and we're very pleased to see it making progress moving forward. We have council and the principal from Home Leasing here with us tonight, but I don't know that if anybody has questions for them, but otherwise you have a motion and a second. No comments. Peggy, please call the roll on that motion.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey?
Aye. Robin, the next matter, please.
Certainly. The next matter, sorry, scrolling, seeks to approve the standard workday reporting for elected and appointed officials. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none. Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailey?
Aye. And the last matter is to approve an amendment to an incentive zoning previously approved for the Jewish Senior Life campus. And this one does include the seeker, I believe. Am I correct?
That
on
is correct,
Yes,
Supervisor.
Yes. Councilmember Salzman, if you would.
The next matter seeks to approve an amendment to the Jewish Senior Life Campus Incentive Zoning approved in 2015 and the seeker negative declaration. I move that we approve the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
This is a matter, public hearing was held on this matter back in April. The public hearing was closed. At the applicant's request, we held off on taking action until the applicant was able to satisfy some internal matters that were important to them. They have now expressed an interest to proceed, and that is what we are proposing to do tonight. John, anything you would like to say to flesh this out?
I'll just briefly summarize the resolution. So what this resolution does is amend a prior resolution that the town board adopted in 2015 with respect to one of the lots on the campus to allow construction of what are known as greenhouses on that lot. And so the effective modification of this is to decrease the number of greenhouses that are located on that parcel, increasing the number of the independent living building to allow for additional facilities in that building, and also to increase the number of residential units from 75 to 90. There is no change in the amenities and incentives that were previously approved by the town board.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, Nate, you made that motion, and it was seconded by
Robin.
Robin. Thank you. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye. Matters of the supervisor, Robin, you summarized what a great day the 4th was, and thanks to lots of different, Matt Beeman, but also Fleet Feet that puts on the 5K race, the Kiwanis Club of Brighton, which puts on the Kiwanis Kids Zone and their petting zoo. We had some great music acts. It was a good day, and the rain held off.
Right.
The weather was great. Speaking of great, Pride at the Brighton Farmers Market this past Sunday was also a big success. Thanks again to people who really put their all into it. Sue Gardner-Smith, our market manager, her long-standing and consistent commitment to diversity, to equity and inclusion, DEI, in every aspect of the market was reflected in what a great event was put on. She worked with our Chief Diversity Officer, Miriam Moore, Recreation Director, Becky Cotter, Braden Reese. Braden is the head of Rochester LGBTQ+ Together, and it's a wonderful grassroots organization, and Braden works very, very hard and is an important part of our market presentations. And he helped organize a number of organizations that from the LGBTQ community that tabled at Pride. So a great day. We're not finished celebrating Pride. On Friday at noon, we will have our annual Pride flag, Brighton Pride flag unfurling on the front facade of Town Hall, and we will be honoring Joseph Searles and Trillium Health, which has done so much to promote health within the LGBTQ community in a world where HIV/AIDS is still very much present. So that will be great. And then along with many, many other community groups, but I'm not sure about any other towns, but the town of Brighton will again this year be marching in the Pride Parade on July 20th. We invite volunteers from our various boards, staff, elected officials, family and friends, and if you've stuck it out this far, come on out on July 20th. March with us in the Pride Parade. We believe in Pride. We believe in the work we do for DEI. Hate has no place in Brighton. One other thing I want to talk about, really a great initiative, and our newest town judge, Judge Vic Vilke, really put this together working with Monroe County, and that is the Landlord-Tenant Project. It's a holistic approach within the Brighton Town Court to work with Just Cause, which used to be known as the Volunteer Legal Service Project, to assist tenants facing eviction, and to address issues with landlords too, and the impact that they have from defaults. I say holistic because Monroe County is a part of this, and they are also there with the opportunity to screen people whose cases are being heard, whose landlord-tenant cases are being heard in Brighton Town Court for housing and SNAP food benefit needs. It's a real effort to holistically address Brighton. More than 40% of the residential dwelling units in Brighton are rental, or they're not owner occupied. So it's really important that we take this approach. Judge Vilcu has talked about it actually since before he was elected. You may have seen the big trailer outside from Monroe County earlier tonight, and before tonight's meeting, Judge Vilcu was in there hearing these landlord-tenant cases, and the tenants had counsel there from Just Cause. It's a great program. I really appreciate Judge Vilcu working with the county to take the lead on that. Matters of the attorney to the town. John.
Thank you, Supervisor. Nothing additional to report this evening. I would request an executive session to discuss 3 matters leading to the promotion of particular persons.
Great, thank you. Anything from the town clerk's office tonight, Peggy?
Not tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for filling in. Matters of the town board.
Nothing tonight.
Thank you, Heather and Ally. It's great to have you, and thank you for the service you provide to the deaf and hard of hearing community in Brighton. And who knows where else? Who knows who else is watching us on our YouTube channel? Thank you. Can I have a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment and the promotion of particular people?
Bill, I move that we go into executive session to discuss the promotion of particular people.
Second?
Discussion? Hearing none, Peggy, please call the roll.
Councilmember Warner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman.
Aye.
Supervisor Maley.
Aye, I do not anticipate coming back out into public session after the executive session. Our next meeting will be 2 weeks from tonight, July 24th, right here in this room. Have a good night, everybody.